not act on this. This is not advice. This is not anything except a story. And I'll deny I ever said it. Today I'm going to see a retailer, an online retailer of white goods. Washing machines, fridges, freezers, you name it really, anything electrical. So in theory their main competitor is Currys and places like that, which of course is a terrifying prospect online, because they will have, you know, 5-figure, 6-figure online marketing budgets. This person doesn't. And so whilst we have talked about search engine ranking, today will be about email marketing, I think, and we will go through some of the campaigns they've run in the past, and that's what I'll be talking about. What? Okay, I just left the white goods retailer where I discussed email marketing for 2 hours, and I enjoyed the meeting, don't get me wrong, and we had a cup of coffee and talked about life and things, but I have to say email marketing is so boring. It really is boring, and anyone who thinks otherwise is I don't know, needs a hobby. But I'm still going to talk about it, so unlucky, which is, why is it boring? It's because it's so easy. It's so simple. It's like anybody could do it. What do you need to do, like email marketing? I need some emails, kind of a given. I can buy them, or I can just export the email. That's a good idea. Export the emails from my address book on Outlook. If you haven't ever done that, we did that about 2 years ago. We ended up with 1,000 emails of people we'd met or spoken to. I thought, oh, well, that's good. So we emailed them, obviously. So, you know, I get emails from lots of sources. I can buy it, or I can export it from my address book, or I can find them. Get emails. Write email. Newsletter. You know, content, which is basically a picture and some text. Put email, picture and text into newsletter in MailChimp. That's not very hard to do. That is actually cut and pasting. Hit send. That's actually simpler than cut and pasting. Wait and see what happens. People who click, people who open. Ring up people who clicked. Take money. Repeat process. Yeah. It's pretty boring, but highly effective. And I don't know a single business situation where done properly, and I just told you how to do that, done properly, you do not make more money than you spend. And you can't say that about many things in business. However, email marketing does come with baggage, and that's what I will talk about. Where do I get my emails? Well, I said, you buy them from a database provider, you export your address book from people who you've ever communicated with, or you go and find them yourself. You know, that's not hard, right? I just go to any association website and there'll be like 100 emails of companies, and I import them into MailChimp. Other email software is available. But am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to send an email to people who did not ask me to send it to them? And this is a very contentious issue, I think. And when I do the training for online marketing, we get onto the email section, this is what I say. These are the things you are not allowed to do with email marketing. You are not allowed to spam, which means send an email to someone who didn't ask for it. An irrelevant email. Well, any email. You know. Well, that is kind of the regulation. You're not allowed to spam. And technically you will be if you send out correspondence to an email address who did not opt in or ask to receive it. It's not quite as clear cut as that, and I'm not a lawyer, and so, you know, disclaimers do apply to everything I am about to say. But there is a difference between consumers and businesses, as there are in most marketing regulations. You most definitely cannot email consumers without permission. And that comes from the source or the drive to create the regulations that prevent spam. I know what these are because I rang up the Information Commissioner's office once. I was working with somebody up in North Devon, and he was sending out 200,000 emails twice a month. Which to me was astronomical number. You know, I thought, blimey, makes my number seem a bit insignificant. That's what he did, and it worked brilliantly. Now, they'd never opted in. They were people who bought from him, and you know, in the past. Anyway, he buys this new company, and there's another 200,000 emails. So in effect, the opportunity is to double your sales with overnight. And he says to me, "What would you do, Elliot? Would you send this email, or would you not? You know, would you add them to the database?" At which point, being the brave, brazen, confident, direct person I am, so I'm not saying, I'm not telling you. There's no way I'm making that decision for you. And so I said, what I will do is I'll ring up the Information Commissioner's office. They'll give us an answer of sorts, and then you can make a decision based on some facts, not hearsay. So I ring up the Information Commissioner's office, and I will put their phone number at the bottom of this video. Tell them straight. I said, you know, this is the situation. He's bought a new company. There's 200,000 emails. They didn't sign up to receive any correspondence or marketing. He'd like to contact them. Where's he stand? Now, this is what they said to me. Do not act on this. This is not advice. This is not anything except a story. And I'll deny I ever said it. I ring him up. The Information Commissioner's officer says to me, these laws were created for companies like Tesco and John Lewis and massive companies in the UK who would abuse email marketing, who would spam millions of people because they can, and they needed to be stopped. And so the consumer protection created spam regulation. In the UK, the laws are different in different countries. Canada, you can't send out anything. It's just too risky. Right? Which means I can, in theory, email businesses. Or I'm certainly safer to do so. Although you've got to be careful there, right? A business, a sole trader as a business is often viewed as a consumer when you do direct marketing. So be careful. So he says to me, that's where these regulations came from. In the case of your customer, who's obviously a small business, I'm thinking, small? He sends out 200,000 emails twice a month. Oh my goodness, what's that make me? Minuscule. He said, you know, I wouldn't really worry about it too much. I mean, I paraphrased a little, but his argument was, what is the risk of prosecution if you are sending out emails to people who are interested in the topic, a relatively small number, not millions, and they have an opportunity to unsubscribe? What is the chance of prosecution? Well, technically, there is a chance of prosecution. However, the drive of the Information Commissioner's office and their limited resources was to keep Tesco, John Lewis, Morrison's, these monster companies in check. Not my contact in Ilfracombe. I'm rubbish at this. Ilfracombe! Yes. So I go back to see him and I said, this is the situation. That's what they said to me. I'm writing nothing down, and I'll deny I ever said it. You do what you think. This has nothing to do with me. I've just made the anonymous call for you. So he sends them out, gets a positive response. Hardly anyone unsubscribes because it was technically spam, but in reality, not quite. They'd signed up to something similar in the same sector. They were interested. And that's my theory on email in general. If I send you an email or any message and I know it's of interest to you, you will not object because you will value the content in the email. If I follow that rule and that condition, then I really should be okay, unless I'm sending out 5 million emails a week, in which case, well, no one's okay. Don't take my word for it. If you're not sure about email sending, ring up the Information Commissioner's office. I'll put their number below. In fact, they'll probably be delighted to hear from you, and ask them. Say, this is how many emails I've got, what would you do? And they will give you a real-world answer, apparently. Well, the guy I spoke to did. So, you know, that's one issue with data. Can I send out emails? Well, if people followed the letter of the law when it came to email regulation. There would be no email marketing industry in the UK, and there is. It is massive. So I've told you two things there, which is ring up the Information Commissioner's office, don't take my word for it, and secondly, send out emails to your customers, especially the ones you already have, and preferably new ones every month, because it's virtually free, and if you follow it up, pretty much guaranteed to work. And if you're not sending out email marketing, I would argue you should, based on seeing people do it many times. One final thing about how important is email marketing. We're having an event once. I send out 50 names of qualified leads. By that means I sent out the email, they click things, I saw who clicked what, I put it all together, I spent a lot of time getting this list ready, give it to telemarketer. She rings up 50 names, she gets me 10 sign-ups. I'm pretty happy with that. I then run out of time, there's a couple of seats left on the event. I think, oh, I haven't got time for another email. I'll just give her 50 names of people who've never heard of me or have never contacted and say, ring them up. So she gets the 50 names, she rings up 50 names in exactly the same way, gets me 10 sign-ups. Might as well have not sent my email. Ah, dear. Live and learn. The power is in the phone call.